This video explores the legacy of residential schools today and the ways to move forward. We will look at the prevalence of violence in Aboriginal communities today, its root causes, and the impact on individuals and communities. We will also talk about healing and how to break the vicious cycle created by the residential school system.
I think violence has really permeated every level of our community.
In my legal career, and I've done criminal law, family law, civil litigation, and poverty law. Until I started doing the work that I do now, I never saw in my life so much violence and disparity amongst family members and community members and people that love each other.
I think everybody, not just Aboriginal people in general, but I think a community as a whole is affected by it, because within a community, if there's a lot of violence and people don't let their children go out, they don't feel safe walking to the store because they think they're going to get mugged or robbed.
Families are experiencing tremendous violence here in the last while, and I think it's because of a number of issues: residential school, lack of education, employment. There's so many contributing factors.
Well, I think in part residential school had a huge part in that, because as Native people, we grew up and our culture is based around family. And we weren't raised by just our parents, we were raised by an entire community, uncles and aunts and stuff, and they all imparted different parts of our upbringing and our values into us. And residential school took that away, and these people, they grew up very angry. A lot of them were abused.
But there's still many broken people, and I think one of the main reasons people are still broken is the residential school syndrome still exists in our society. Because now what has happened, and when people left residential school, they were broken. And when they would come out into mainstream society, people saw broken people. And rather than say, how can we help you? How can we build you up? How can we restore you? They put them down.
One of the most unhealthiest issues that came out of the residential school is sexuality, because so many people were raped, boys and girls, at the schools, and so their whole sexual identity was just really shut down. And I think when they came back into the communities, that it came up in really unhealthy ways. And so, especially in the more isolated communities where things could happen and the authorities wouldn't be around, so there's really unhealthy power dynamics that came into play.
If a parent grew up with violence, they in turn impart that on their children, and then their children impart it on not only their children but the people around them, and it's a continuing cycle. And until somebody steps in and helps, it's gonna keep continuing, and it just gets worse as it goes along. It seems to be getting worse more amongst youth. And I think a lot of that has to do with just misplacement of themselves. They don't know where they are and what they're doing, and lack of structure, and they end up acting out because they don't have parents there to help them, and they have drug and alcohol issues, and a lot of them lost connections to their culture amongst Aboriginal people, and I think that has a huge impact on kind of what's happening, and they're angry and they don't know what to do with it, and they in turn turn it on themselves and turn it on the people around them. That's basically what I did. I had nowhere to place my anger towards everything, and yeah, I acted out. And I put that anger and that violence on not only myself, but everybody that I came into contact with.
I think residential school has a huge impact on our First Nations students in the schools that I work with. Many students lack attendance. A lot of parents don't feel the need to encourage their children to be going to school, and that is a reflection of going to residential school. They see school as a negative part in their child's learning. They don't see it as an important aspect and don't make it a priority, as well as the way children deal with problems. They don't have the proper knowledge and vocabulary to express their feelings, and they leave it to anger and violence. And as a result, we have a lot of students who are removed from schools because they have a hard time being acceptably sociable in their own school settings.
Many of our younger generation have no clue who they are. Identification is a major issue amongst our people, and especially because many of them come through the foster home system and adoptive home, and they're trying to find out who they are. And we're also mixed and blended heritage, and we should be proud of all of it.
The only way that people can heal is to talk. Like with my children, to be able to say what I need to say to them, and to be able to hear what they need to say to me. And it's not an easy process, but I believe it's the only way that we can do it. In the communities, to be able to hear what other people have to say, and not from a point of any judgment, but to just hear what they went through, and to tell them what you went through. I think that's the only way.
The people affected have to realize it's not them. It is not them. They did not cause this.
If we begin at young ages teaching Aboriginal children about their culture, to be proud of it, and to teach them about residential school and that it wasn't anybody's fault, it wasn't their parents' fault or their grandparents' fault, that perhaps they don't have the education or the employment or the tools to be a good parent, that they can change it on their own, that they can become educated and realize why things happen and how they can prevent it. And by building on their culture, we can build their self-esteem and show them different ways on dealing with their emotions and not leading to drug abuse and alcohol abuse, and dealing with things using words and communication and emotions, and recognizing that it's okay to use those in order to pass whatever situation it is that they're dealing with.
Education is going to break that cycle. Education probably is the key word in all this. Educated to our current condition of our health, physically, mentally, emotionally. All those things are going to change through education.
The most important thing for me personally that will help break the cycle is being reconnected with our culture and with our community, with our elders, and stuff like that. The culture can really help, and although it's not a cure-all, and it doesn't, you don't go to a ceremony and you're instantly healed and everything's better, but it imparts a sense of discipline into a person, and I think that can help them and people open their minds to get at the other help that they need from other sources within their community or on their reses. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the hugest part. And with that comes education and doing the other stuff, taking parenting classes, and just basically reconnecting with the people in their community, trying to do good work. And by helping others, you can help yourself.
Reconnecting with our spiritual past is huge. We've gone through some pretty intense times, and we've lost connection with all that. It's good to see sweat lodges. It's good to see ancient ceremonies being revived, and it all means discipline and a lifetime journey, which usually means no drugs or alcohol, no abuse.
We have to heal from that process and move on. We can't stay mired in that state of anguish.
How we dealt with the intergenerational effects of the residential school, that's our choice. We can choose to be victims of that, or we can make a choice to change it for ourselves. And as the Ktunaxa Nation, we made the choice to change that history. So in other words, taking something that's so negative in our past and turning it into something positive for our future. And that's what we did as the Ktunaxa Nation. We now have a 4.5-star resort at the former residential school where I spent 9 years. And I think it's just fantastic.
There has to be a change within the person. Each person has to take responsibility.
And I believe today, one person can make a major difference.
Patience and strength. They weren't things that I was taught as a child. They were things that I had to learn as I grew up. And when I had my son, I had to learn how to be patient with myself and with him. And I had to learn how to be strong, and not strong like I was going to fighting strong, but strong to be okay with my own actions, and whatever consequences those actions would have had, that I was still going to be responsible for them and be okay with what was going on. And my tattoos remind me every day of where I've been and how I've gotten here.
So if we are going to undertake our healing journey, we have to be spiritually balanced and learn to cope. We have to quit being victims. We have to quit being victimizing others, and we now have to take control of not only our own situation, but we have to take control collectively to rid our communities of violence. And I believe we can. In this generation, we can do it, because many of our people are now educated, they're now experienced, they've suffered the abuses and have now become the healers and are becoming more spiritually balanced in many different ways. And I think we're on our way to a good healing journey.
Yeah, it's going to be long term, and it's going to take a lot of work, but I think we're getting there. I see a lot of progress being made.
There are ways to move forward, and it is up to us to find the ways to do so. This is an especially challenging task for our young people. The next video will look at some of the choices they are faced with today. The courage and strength to share these stories is an incredible testament to all who participated, and we would like to thank everyone who worked so hard to make this work possible.